Today we're talking about what happens once the INFJ finally embraces their extraordinary learning style. You as an INFJ might already be aware that you learn differently from others. And we're not just talking about learning a subject in school. We're also talking about learning life, right? You learn how to manage certain situations. You learn how to use your best qualities in situations that you might have, perceived differently. So it's all about your learning style. And the problem is that we very often give up before we actually master it because it seems like we're slower than others, that there's something wrong with us. And why is this happening? Because we don't have enough role models that show us that this is exactly right. This is exactly how you're supposed to learn, but you have to give yourself the time to perfect it. Because believe it or not, we as INFJs work with a very exponential learning curve. So in most cases, you will see that if you compare yourself to another type that is not an INFJ, if you both start off a new project at the same time, the other person will most likely be faster at it than you. They will understand things seemingly faster than you. But this will only last until you actually get to a place where all that effort that you've put in so far just exceeds every other aspect because it is an exponential learning curve. And if somebody else has more of a linear learning style, you're going to succeed faster and faster. But you have to be aware of how it works. You have to be aware of that it's going to take some time, and you have to have the confidence that this is exactly the way it needs to be. So today we're going to look into this, and we're going to find out how you as an INFJ can embrace it and make the best out of it. You can really take it to the next level. Before we get started, if you don't know yet, we're launching the next bootcamp round this Saturday, November 5th. So make sure you're on that waiting list. You get access to the early bird price. We're also going to have a free masterclass here on YouTube. You find everything there is to know about the bootcamp, the waiting list, the masterclass in the links in the description. What happens if an INFJ starts off something new and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere? Right? You see other people having fun with it. You see that they're succeeding. You actually think, oh, okay, why should I even try? Very often you lose the trust in yourself that you're going to make it at some point because you continuously get the feedback that, there's something wrong with you. Others are faster. You're just a failure in this one aspect. And what happens there? You actually start believing it yourself. I've experienced this in my younger years, and I see it with INFJs all the time because it really is all about what you believe you can do. And I'm not here to tell you, you just got to believe that you can make it. That's not how it works. We really have to get to a place where we actually believe it and not just tell ourselves that we believe it. Because if you think you're a bad cook, for example, and all that time you're telling yourself, I'm a great cook, your body and your mind will know that you're lying. Right? And as I said, this isn't just about learning a skill, because most of the time, particularly as adults, you might say, I'm not going to school anymore. I don't need to learn subjects. I'm not going to start like a new job every single month, so I don't need to be able to, get better at these things. But it isn't about learning a skill that is just something that you add to your life. It really is all about how you go through life and how you make it happen. And I'm all about creating that INFJ epic life on our terms, right? This is your way and my way, and every single one of us knows more and more what they want. This isn't like a solution that fits all, but what we learn is how to tap into what we want, to be aware of it, to get better at knowing ourselves and making that happen. And so if you're not aware of how your particular learning style works, you're going to give up before you actually get a chance to make something out of it that's going to create that life you always wanted. So what is the main difference about like how INFJs learn and how others learn? And it's not just, as I said, the exponential learning curve, because this is something that is a result of our learning style. The way INFJs learn is that we pick up information and we create a pattern around it. We do that through introvert intuition and introverted thinking. We don't have to go into the functions, but know this. We pick up a certain amount of information and we create a pattern that makes sense. And this pattern is something that you can apply to more than one situation. So imagine you learn 2 times 3 is 6, okay? And another person also learns that. Another person might actually just memorize 2 times 3. That's not how it works for the INFJ. most of the time, we try to understand the pattern behind it. We try to understand how multiplication works. And this easy and straightforward example applies to absolutely everything. So it is about like how you set boundaries. It's about how you manage to go from a position where you're not being appreciated to a position where you're being appreciated, you get more salary, and you actually move forward in life in a much faster sense than most people. It is a skill. It is really about learning how the world works from your perspective. What makes sense to you? What particular attribute about yourself you need to bring forward, in what kind of situations you need to apply yourself at, and the list goes on and on. So the INFJ creates those patterns, and they allow the INFJ to make conclusions about the next situation that they might have never experienced before. How does that work? Well, we already know how multiplication works. So if somebody tells you, please explain to me what 6 times 9 is, you don't have to think about, okay, what did I memorize? You know it's 54 because you've already learned how multiplication works. And that's a way of thinking and of learning that is really very pronounced when it comes to INFJ, because we have this introverted logic, right? We have our own logic. We make sense out of something. We don't take like other types might, external logic as in it has always been this way, so that's why it works like this again. No, we know this has worked for me. So a similar situation where I might not have all the information, but I have the information that I had to, find a solution to the last problem, I can now apply it to that new situation. And it is really similar to saying, okay, somebody drops you off into the ocean and you swim back. You're able to do that. So next time, if somebody drops you off a little further, you have the confidence that you're going to make it. Not because you've ever made that kind of distance, but because you knew that last time you didn't know that you were able to make it. But you made that happen, and you know that you still have something in you. And that is exactly what happens once the INFJ embraces that this is the way they think. Because you have to be aware that you cannot look left and right. You cannot look and see, oh, how fast are others progressing? Because if you do that, you're always going to fall short. You're always going to feel like, well, it doesn't really work for me this way. I'm not seeing the results others are seeing. But why is that? Well, because it takes longer to learn how multiplication works than to learn by heart what 2 times 3 is. So if you know this, you're going to stop beating yourself up for being slower than others, for taking more time and not looking at this concrete thing. You're going to be way kinder with yourself that you're not willing to move on from a certain problem or challenge if you haven't understood everything about it. Because it really is all about the long game. The INFJ is all about creating a life on their terms with a long-term vision. It is in those scenarios where we succeed. It's in those scenarios where we make the biggest progress and where we actually excel. But you will never get to that place if you give up on yourself. If you think, oh, I'm just not good enough and I'm just slow and it works for others, but it doesn't work for me. But this is easier said than done, right? I mean, I can't just tell you, believe in yourself, you're an INFJ, you're going to make it. No, we have to get our mind to a place where it really believes that. And it's not just because somebody tells us this, but it's just something that you know for sure. Like, I know for sure I'm not blonde. Like, I know this. Like, nobody has to convince me of this. I know that this is like the truth. And this is the same thing when it comes to your ability to believe in yourself and to have the confidence to get to the long-term aspect, because that's the place where you actually see the biggest results. You're not going to see them in the beginning stages. You're not going to see them, once you're just a couple of months into it or a couple of times you've practiced something. No, it is the mastery that actually happens through putting in all that work. And it's not about repetitive over and over doing things. It's really about creating a system that is just so part of you that you're not even questioning it. So how do we do that? Well, I always talk about 2 aspects here. The first one is we are INFJs, and that means we don't have to do all the things. We have to do the right things. You have to be aware as an INFJ, you're never going to be able to put in that much effort into something as an ISTJ could, or an ESTP. Like a sensoring type, somebody who has a lot of physical, durability and is driven to work hard continuously. We're just not made this way. And as long as you try to be like somebody of that type, you're never going to find that real potential that you actually have, because you have it in other places. And we have to tap into those. So once you know this, you recognize the following. Okay, I don't have to do all the things. I don't have to work hard. I don't have to, do everything perfectly. But my superpower as an INFJ is to find out what I want and to minimize everything else. You're already doing that. INFJs aren't those people who have, 600 hobbies and 500 interests and all of that. Right? And now it's about figuring out even more what is important to you and to tap into that. So to improve your physical energy as much as possible, we tap into this very deeply in the bootcamp, but you can also check out the free poster. You find the link somewhere in the description as well on how to improve your energy, the energy that you do have. So this is the first thing. You improve your energy as much as possible. You focus on those couple of things that you want to do that are very important to you, and you neglect the other things. So these two aspects are actually the first important aspect. They really belong together. The second aspect is that we have to create success stories. We have to live success stories every single day. You have to feel that you're keeping the promises you make to yourself. And how do you do that? So you actually look at what you have been able to do in the last week or in the last month. You don't look how you fall short to what you would want to do, or how you're too slow in certain things, or how others are so much better at certain things. No, you actually look at, okay, last month I was able to write that one page that I wanted to start my book with. I was able to have that difficult conversation with my mom, and so on and so forth, right? Once you know this, we want to improve this by a couple of percent. So it isn't about like setting a big goal and then saying, okay, I'm going to get close to that. It works for other types, right? The scenario of I'm going to aim for the moon, and if I miss, I'm still going to land among the stars. It is a nice metaphor and it sounds good. But if we fall short continuously, we always believe that there's something wrong with us. And very often, we actually lose hope. See, I'm not here to tell you you're not going to have failures. There's this concept of if you want to be successful in any area of your life, it's all about failure, 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 failure. But it's not about seeing it as failure. It's about knowing, oh, I improved a little bit than last time, and then I improved some more. Right? It's about being aware of where we're at and then adding upon that. If you want to find the confidence to stick with something long enough so your unique learning style can actually come through and give you an advantage, you have to be proud of yourself and you have to be confident about being able to get there. And we build this confidence by continuously keeping the promises we make to ourselves. We build this confidence by seeing progress. So if you're focusing on everything that you lack, or on everything that you're not able to do, or because you compare yourself to others, your mind will continuously tell itself, you did something wrong, you're not good enough. And with that mindset, no matter how good your learning style is, you're never going to give it the chance to actually blossom. So it's super important that you set goals that aren't too big of a stretch, because that way you see the results that you're getting. You see that you master the art of showing up. You told yourself, I'm going to do this, and you actually make that happen. This is way more important than setting like this big goal and then falling short of it. But overall, you actually achieved more than in that first scenario where you promised yourself you're going to do a small step and then you made it happen, right? I mean, at first glance, you might say, well, isn't the other option better? I actually reached further. Yeah, it's better short term. But if you continuously beat yourself up and you expect to see those quick results, you're going to stop doing it because it doesn't feel good, right? You cannot work and make something happen through willpower discipline, not long term, not in a way where it will make a significant difference in your life. Our unique learning style works best if you allow yourself to make this your new normal, to make this part of your identity. And in order to do that, we have to teach ourselves that we are good at, showing up. We're good or great at keeping the promises we make to ourselves. And that once we commit to something, we actually make that happen. This is a program that you need to build up in your mind. And it works best for INFJs if you make it in small steps. It's more important to reach that goal and to say, yeah, I did that. I said I was going to do that and do that, than the goal itself. So even if it's something like going to bed 15 minutes earlier and you say, well, I have to go to bed 3 hours earlier in order to see significant results, focus on those 15%. I promise you, once you make this your number one priority, the art of showing up, of keeping the promises you make to yourself, and if you're not able to keep them, go even smaller. There is no step that is small enough. You will see the biggest improvements in the results you achieve in life because you already have this amazing learning style, but you have to give it the room and the time to really make it to something that is an advantage to your life. Remember, guys, if you want to learn more about this and be part of a community that actually creates those results, then join the next INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp round. We launch this Saturday, November 5th. There's also going to be a free masterclass that day if you want to find out more about the concept of the 5 pillars to an INFJ Epic Life. All the information you need you find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video on the exponential learning curve of the INFJ.